Once you have your safety glasses on, you need to make sure that your hood is going to be on at least a shade 10. Some people like a shade 9 to 9.5, but a shade 10 is more than enough for some stick welding. Our first pass, we're going to run on about 140 amps. This is a flat position, so you know, different people like different temperatures on their welding, and that's okay. You know, 115 to 140 or 150 is a perfect range to be in. I will say, being in the flat position, you can run a little hotter because you're not working against gravity. So, you know, you have to keep that in mind, okay? Now, I have already set up this V-groove this morning, okay? I tacked it together, and this is actually tacked to the table because since I'm doing this to D1.1, I'm allowed to use my wire wheel. It's the reason I'm going to be using the wire wheel today is, you know, for simply, you know, cleaning up a lot faster than trying to use a wire brush. So when you guys get this set up, it's okay to tack this to the table. Just make sure you're grinding that off after. Okay, first pass. Now remember, these runoff tabs are here for a reason. Now this is just a random piece that I grabbed, so these runoff tabs have like an extra inch on each side, so I'm not going to use the entire thing. But about an inch ahead and an inch below these V-grooves is where you want to be as far as your starts and your stops. Okay, we're using the 7018 1/8 inch electrode, not the 3/32. Okay, and our 1/4 inch gap between the V groove here. Okay, make sure that it's at least a 1/4 of an inch, because if you get smaller, you start to have a little bit of problem with getting enough penetration into that base metal and not trapping slag in there. Okay, so the way that this will happen is I'm gonna start about an inch ahead and finish about an inch below. Okay, for the first pass. Second pass, we're gonna go about 3/4 of the way, and then, you know, so on and so forth. That way you guys can see the different steps throughout the process here. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do, put our electrode into our electrode holder, and then we're going to weld our first pass. Now I will say, a couple of you have said it before, you're starting here, everything is going perfectly fine until you get to like this back portion, and then what happens, your weld starts going all crazy and you know, not sticking into there. That's called arc blow. So there's a couple of different things that you can do to help prevent this. So first, when it happens, you want to just stop right where you're at. Okay, let's readjust our settings. Okay, we might have to move our ground clamp you know, to a different position. We might have to take our amperage, and have to turn the amperage down a little bit. So there's a couple of different things to do. Okay, so we're going to start 10 to 15 degree angle, weld our first pass here. Now, I did not get to finish. I'm running at a higher amperage right now, so my rod did not make it all the way down. But where I stopped was not in a spot that would be tested, which is okay. But before you go any farther, chip just on the edge. You don't need to chip everything. Just on the edge where you stopped, you can start right back up on that spot there. my wire wheel here. We're gonna clean this up with the wire wheel. Okay, now, you guys will have troubles getting this first row of slag off here, okay? It's not unnormal to have a little bit of difficulty getting that off, okay? I will say, when you're going this initial root pass, you want to make sure that you are getting all of the slag out of there. So if it takes an extra 5 minutes to clean that slag out of there, that is perfectly fine, because it's all on the quality of the weld, not how long it takes to get finished. Okay? So now, since this is just practice, I'm just going to reuse the electrode that I already had. And what I like to do when it's not in the stinger is tap it on the table to re-expose that filler, okay? So now, this is small enough to where I am actually going to take a single pass and go directly over that with just a single pass, okay? And then I'm gonna run a 2-pass over top of that, okay? Here we go. Clean off the edge. Way we can fire back up. Okay, let that cool for just a second. Then with the wire wheel again. All right, so we did our first pass. And then we did our second pass, which we did a little bit of manipulation, okay, because it's a little bit wider. Now, I can go to the right side here. I'm gonna run a pass taking half of that pass away, okay, and then I'm gonna come back in and fill on the left-hand side here. Okay, like I said, we're not going all the way because we're gonna step this, that way you guys can see the finished product. Okay, I left myself enough room to fill in our gap here. So our angle was about 30 or so degrees. Now we're going to slightly angle it back towards the backstop. Let it cool down for a second. Okay. So I turned my amperage down to about 125 or so. Remember, all those passes, those 4 passes that I just did are really heating up this metal. So, you know, if I stick my hand on here, it's gonna be very hot and I'm gonna get burnt. So, we did our root pass, we did our cover pass, and then we did 2 fills, or sorry, we did our root, we did our hot pass is what it would be, we did our 2 fills, and now we're going to be able to start our cap with a 2, possibly 3 stringer cap on the end. And you guys will see this once we're finished here, okay? Okay, so actually, we're still just a little bit low, and sometimes that happens. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm going to take a 2 or possibly 3 pass and run 1 more set of beads. Now remember, just because you're even with the surface, doesn't mean that that's enough weld, okay? You need to be above the surface of that base metal, that way you don't have any low spots. So we're gonna go ahead and perform a couple more welds here to bring this up. so there's our first weld. Now we're getting pretty hot right now, so I'm running a little bit faster too. I think we'll be able to get this with just one more pass. Okay, let that cool down for a second. Hit it with the wheel. All right, so we're gonna grab, since this is real hot, we're going to grab a set of pliers. You don't want to grab this with your hand and reach up on it. So we're going to grab our channel locks here, bend this off. I'm going to show you guys our passes here. Finished product with having steps there. Now we had a little bit of arc flow down here. That's where the that little bit of spatter is. Where you'll see all the layers, and then the finished product